Welcome back to GAA Fan TV. My name is Aaron. I'm delighted to be joined here by What's the Score founder and former All-Ireland winner himself with Galway, Paul Flaherty. We're here to run through this weekend's All-Ireland Senior Hurling Championship quarter-finals. Cork taking on Galway, Wexford taking on Clare as well. Both games, of course, on Saturday at Semple Stadium in Thurles. Just a reminder, we're brought to you by Declan Kirby GAA Star, best children's GAA book out there in the market at the minute. You can find it on Amazon, Easons, all good bookshops as well. So make sure to check it out when you get a chance. Paul, what's the crack with yourself? How's life? You're keeping well?
Yeah, all good, Aaron. Thanks for having me on again. Really looking forward to the doubleheader this weekend. It's great that Galway are still in it there. So obviously because I'm from Galway, but all is good. All is good.
100%. Yeah. Have you gotten over the Kilkenny defeat yet? And I suppose the fallout of Shefflin v Cody and all the rest and everything. I feel like more people were nearly talking about that more than the game, to be honest.
Yeah, it was strange enough because like I was in Croke Park and we were just behind. We were in the Hogan stand and like so many people after Galway lost, like so many people stayed around to see like what was going on because you just like once the game ended, like Shefflin, whatever, he was disappointed, and naturally enough, all the selectors and whoever else were down the sideline were disappointed, but they didn't really move anywhere. And Cody then was just he just kind of congratulated a lot of players, his own players, Galway players, and he didn't move from his half of the pitch at all. Like, even when they shook hands, Henry had to go from nearly between the 45 and 65 on their end to midfield to and Cody didn't meet him halfway. Now there is a lot of speculation going on, and it's not great, but a lot of people, it's definitely in Croke Park, a lot of people stayed to see, like, and then there was kind of a big kind of a cheer when they actually did shake hands, like a bit of crack. So it's blown up, but there's because as you can see in the video, like Henry was shaking his head afterwards, like, so I think I think Cody doesn't really mind. I think he loves the kind of mind games, but Henry's just he's more just get on with it, kind of mentality.
Yeah, I mean it was an interesting one, all right, between the two, and I'm sure if they end up meeting each other again in an All-Ireland final or whatever it may be, if that's potentially what happens, I mean it would make for I suppose another intriguing story nonetheless. But it is obviously Cork that you're going up against, of course, on Saturday, going up against the Rebels. Cork obviously fresh after their big win over Antrim, bit of a test in some ways, bit of a scare in some ways. Obviously trailing at half time, they came back to win, but I suppose as a Galway man, like, I mean, as a neutral, first of all, like, it's a hard one to call, really. It's I think it's going to be very close. Could really go either way. But like, what do you reckon yourself as a Galway man going into this? Are you confident, or what would be your thought process?
I'm even though I'm from Galway, I'm not going to be very biased. I think it's very 50-50. I can't see it being one has the upper hand over the other. I like just taking Galway, like the last day out there against Kilkenny, like it was just very, like, the full back line was really good. They actually learned a lot from playing Kilkenny the game in Pearse Stadium, because they conceded 3 goals that day, and let's say Jack Grealish was really tight and on Cody. You Darren Morrissey with a great game, and Dahi, who was just a steady rock there, full back. So full back line was probably the best line in the game, and then the half back line did their bit as well. Pádraig Mannion was probably the standout there, but then just from 8 upwards, it didn't really click for the lads in terms of like Tom Mann, Joseph Cooney. Brian Cannon didn't really try and get into it there. Joe Mannion, he's an unbelievable hurler, but just found it hard to get on the ball there. So I think it was just a bit of an off day there from kind of the midfield and forwards up from the Galway side of things, and it was just disappointing. And like the one thing that in terms of tactics and looking at the game, like the Kilkenny, they didn't play a sweeper at all for the first half. It was just 2 lads inside, Conor Whelan and Concannon, and that's where all the chances came for their goals. Like, so there was one in particular, like the ball came down to Joe Cooney, he just or Keelan Fahey, he tipped it on the hurl. Joe Cooney ran like a train on the break, and he was clean through, and he kicked it, and Owen Murphy like pulled off a serious save. He was unbelievable in the first half. So if Galway got one of them goals, it could be a completely different conversation. It's not, and that's where Galway are now at the minute. So they've got Henry now, his big job. I think this is one of his biggest, trying to pick them up after this is going to be a real test to his kind of managerial career as well. How is he going to pick these guys up after they were probably, they just didn't play well against Kilkenny, and they've got a big test against Cork. On the other hand, like you look at Cork, and they, as you said, like they kind of had a bit of a scare against Antrim. Like they were a point down at half time, even though they scored 2-10, like which is good scoring. And fair play to Antrim, I'd say, going up to Corrigan Park, like it was a bit of a, like Cork were always expected to win the game. It was a bit of a, like, they didn't really gain anything out of it, in terms, because like if they lost, then it just, everyone expected them to win. So they got 327, which is, again, it's unreal scoring. And just looking at the Cork's last 3 games, they got 327 against Antrim, they got 330 against Tip, and they got 222 against Waterford. So that's 8 goals they've got in the last 3 games. And that's really important now coming into, if they get 2 or 3 goals against Galway, it's going to be very hard for Galway. If they concede 2 or 3 goals, I don't know will Galway win this match. So it's very much in the balance.
Yeah, it's interesting, all right, that you mentioned goals, because even with Galway as well, I find that there's almost been a lack of goals at times. Like you obviously didn't get a goal against Kilkenny, none against the Dubs, one against Kilkenny. Didn't floor against Laois either, or obviously got the 1 goal against Laois. So I mean, generally, or against Wexford, I should say, generally speaking, for Galway, I suppose up top in terms of goals, when you do look at Cork and the threat of goals that they have from Fitzgibbon, Harnedy, and even Horgan, if he's starting or coming off the bench, I mean that's going to be a big sort of, I suppose, added point for Galway, really.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of fearing there, and that's why I'm kind of 50-50, that I think Galway might have the better backs, but I actually think Cork could do more danger on the scoreboard. So it's really going to be a difficult game to call. As you said, they only got 17 points against Kilkenny the last day, no goal against Dublin. They got 2 against Laois, 237 they got, and they only got 1 against Kilkenny in Pearse Stadium that time when Conor Cooney got the last free to win it. So that could be a huge thing. Like when you look at Henry Shefflin and what their teams could do, for the great teams that they had, they always got goals at vital times with Eddie Brennan and Martin Comerford and himself, Henry, playing as well. So that is a big worry for a Galway supporter. But in terms of Cork, like, you got to be very happy. 8 goals in the last 3 games, as you said. You've got Lehan, who's kind of on the freeze now because Horgan's kind of on the bench. He's really stepping up. Harnedy, Shane Kingston, like, he's a live wire. He could be starting or not. Like, even I was just looking at the bench there, like Jack O'Connor was nearly very close to an all-star last year, and he's not even starting now for the Cork team. So they do have lots of options there, and even they had Tim O'Mahony up in the forwards as well, who's a big, if he's going towards goal, like, he's a hard man to stop. So if Galway conceded 2 or 3 goals against Cork, I wouldn't be confident that the Galway get over the line.
Yeah, I suppose, like, because you mentioned as well, like, obviously Cork's last win against Antrim, but even at that as well, like, they've been playing knockout hurling really now for the last 2-3 games, whereas opposed to Galway have always sort of known that, well, obviously they're in the Leinster final, but they still have another chance the next week out, even if they lose. So, like, that could be a worry as well, because Cork are coming in flying form, obviously having beaten both Tipperary and Waterford, and then obviously they've gone and backed it up with a win over Antrim. So I mean, it's probably, in all honesty, the wrong time to be playing this Cork side. I know they didn't look great last week, but they are coming in with a bit of momentum, something that they didn't have at the start of the championship.
Yeah, I know you're saying that they didn't play great last weekend, but still got 327.
Yeah.
That's still and like Antrim, fair. Like I watched the Antrim and Kerry game, like, and that was really high scoring. Like I don't think there's such a break between the Joe McDonagh and the All Ireland. It's getting closer. I feel like they're definitely improving. Them kind of teams like the Laois and the Westmeads. Like Westmead drew with Wexford there, 215 to 21 points there earlier on in the round robin. So, which is great to see. But yeah, Cork, like, it's the 2 teams are coming in off total different backgrounds. Like, Cork were kind of bad start in the round robin in Munster. Then they They got a great win over Waterford when people thought, Waterford are going to, that was kind of the start of Waterford's kind of diminishing of the championship, and that was the start of Cork, really. So they're coming off, like Cork have 2 or 3 good games where they've confidence and they're zipping the ball around the place and everything like that. And Galway they had a good start to the round robin, and then, as you said, they probably were in a comfortable position or a smooth position, because even if they lost to Dublin, they probably were still in the Leinster final anyways. So it wasn't, let's say, knockout for Galway. It was kind of, just another game in the round robin. So, this is Galway's kind of first knockout game, and it's probably Cork's third, nearly fourth, So it is, that could be an important factor this weekend.
Yeah, because even looking at Cork and that win over Waterford in particular, you've Alan Connolly who's foreign, you've Horgan who's foreign, Lahan as well, and even with Patrick Horgan, he obviously comes off the bench in the last game in that win over Waterford. So, I mean, when you're looking at it in many ways, Cork probably still have another level to go up on with Patrick Horgan as well. If he can click into gear along with the other lads, I mean, Cork could be up there.
Yeah, Cork were going really well. It's the same team as last year, and unfortunately they just didn't turn up in the All Ireland final against Limerick. Whether that was kind of Limerick's superiority or whether it's just Cork didn't it was their first All Ireland in a long time. Did they kind of flop? It's hard to know. But Cork, they have the experience of the All Ireland last year. They won't fear Galway. And the one thing that I do worry this weekend from another Galway perspective is, when Galway play Cork, it's usually a shootout. And as we were kind of saying there with the goals, and maybe they're getting the average points that Cork are scoring might be 3 or 4 ahead of Galway. Galway need to be in their faces down Thurles. They need to be really dogged now, because if it does go to a shootout, I think you have Harnedy, Kingston, Lahan, as you said, Horgan comes on off the bench. If you're back and it's 55 minutes to gone or 60 minutes to gone, and you have to mark Patrick Horgan, who is just risks that are just unbelievable, and it's just so hard to mark. And even if Jack O'Connor comes on, he's just a speed merchant, So Cork definitely do have the firepower up there. I just hope that Galway kind of make sure to kind of grind it out, make it as dogged as possible, so that Cork can't get on that kind of score, and where they're kind of tipping the ball back and forth to each other around the 65-yard line, and then hit that lovely pass into the full forward line for their speedy forwards. So the work rate of Galway is a huge factor this weekend.
Yeah, and ultimately then who are you back at? I mean, I'd imagine obviously you're going to put your cards close to your chest and back Galway, even though it is 50-50, and I do think it's going to be very, very close. I mean, it could even be extra time and possibly more.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it could be the first time. Yeah, even though I kind of, I was the whole time worrying about Galway. I've seen them. I know a good few of them. Conor Whelan, he's unbelievable when he gets going. Brian Concannon is exceptional as well when he just hasn't found his rhythm yet. Carl Mannion can score from anywhere. Joe Cooney can score from anywhere. Tom Mann has been very good this year as well in the half forward line role. So the backs, as I said, they're really, really they are dogged. So I do think that they can get over Cork. I'm going to say it'll be a draw, and then Galway will win in extra time. But it's really tough. It's a really tough one, and it's a great game to look forward to. It's pure championship hurling, very hard to call. So yeah, really look forward to it.
Yeah, I'm gonna back Cork narrowly. I just think the momentum that they're coming in after the last couple of games, and I think the worrying point as well is maybe something we should ask you as well, is since 2018, Galway haven't really had too many big championship wins. I know in 2020, I think maybe was it you beat Tipperary, I think, before the All Ireland semi-finals with Limerick. But aside from that, there hasn't really been too many sort of big key championship wins and big moments. And I just think going down the home stretch, maybe that might lend itself to the Rebels,
Yeah, and I think since 2018, they've kind of got a new crop of players. Jack Grealish has been there for a long time, but this is his first time kind of a starting full year there cornerback. Darren Morrissey's come in there the last 2 years. He's been very good. Finton Burke kind of came in the last 2 years, and Tom Annan, as well. So the Galway have kind of a lot of younger lads coming in, and then they've got the experience of Johnny Cohen and the likes there. David Burke will probably come in. He might start even this game, but he'll be coming in. He'll definitely be influencing the game at some stage. So you're probably right. They haven't really kicked on since the All-Ireland win, but they still have the experience. There's a lot of the spine of the team there with Dai Burke, Garage Mack, Joe Cooney. Conor Cooney, even at centre forward, has been going very well. He was unreal against Kilkenny in the round robin game, and Whelan is always dependable at full forward. He'll give you 100%. So maybe they haven't pulled it out of the fire, but no time like this Saturday at down Thurles to pull a big win out of the championship.
100%. Yeah, Matthew says here, tip man here managed to get a ticket for the matches Saturday going with my Cork girlfriend. It's really difficult to tell who will win because both teams don't always show up. Here's hoping both teams do. Yeah, I mean, it's a fair point there. Make no mistake about that. I suppose moving on to Wexford and Clare, and obviously a bit of, I suppose, controversy obviously going into this game, given the fact of Peter Duggan and Rory Hayes. But those suspensions have obviously now been overturned, and Stockroom Tim says here, hey lads, do you expect to see whistle happy refs for the next few hurling games this year after the suspension debacle? I mean, I suppose that is the question, isn't it? Because maybe referees might be influenced a bit more by that now, or maybe that, to be thinking more. Obviously, we've seen sort of the situation with Limerick down the years, but what was your sort of thoughts on that whole debacle? And obviously, I suppose it's hard to know really if we've come to the right decision, because I do think you could argue that some of those challenges were red cards, but given the fact that it wasn't spotted by a referee, it was spotted by the media,
Yeah, I was actually listening to something this morning. No, I can't remember what it was, but and it was like Keenan Fahey for Galway is obviously another one that was kind of in that situation. So I think it was the Galway GAA. Not sure who was on the thing, but they got out the kind of I won't say the rule book or the legal book, and they said that you can't scrutinize anyone over Zoom. So that's why the three lads got off, because it was all you can't force a sanction over Zoom. It's a technicality. So, like, to be fair, I think nearly all three could probably should have been nearly suspended. Like, Peter Duggan gave a good right arm. Like, if Bernard Dunn gave that, you'd be fairly proud of it. Like, or Katie Taylor or something like that. It was a good right fist to the William O'Donoghue's chest, and you got to give him credit for kind of taking it and not rolled around like a soccer player. Keenan Fahey was a bit like, we were at the match and we didn't see that at all. Like, it just got picked up by the camera, so it didn't really look pretty. He got away with it, and he was actually very good against Kilkenny. I was surprised they took him off as well, so that's good. And Rory Hayes has been one of the standout cornerbacks besides Sean Finn in this year's championship. So I'm happy to see that Rory Hayes is back there, because Seamus Flanagan had someone else in the headlock not so long before that in the match. So there's a lot of controversy over it. I think when the Sunday game do slow highlights down, it does make things a lot worse than they are, because in real time, it's the fastest game in the world. Like, it's so hard to, and you've got one lad in the middle. And just going back to your man's point there about the referees, like your man got great praise there for the Limerick and Clare match the last day, and fair play to him. Like, he refed a good game. Like, he didn't use the whistle much. And then you've got James Owens, who, like, when we came out of Croke Park, we were like, geez, he gave Kilkenny way more frees than Galway lads. So when they went back in on Monday and Tuesday, like, into the referees committee, who did they say? What did they say to John Keenan? You didn't have the best game. You should have gave more frees again in the Limerick and Clare match. Or did they say to James Owens, Jesus, you should have let the game flow a bit more? Like, so referees are definitely going to be influenced by what happened in the last in the Munster final and Leinster final. So it'll be interesting to see how the referees fare out this weekend.
Yeah, Coleman says TV ref for matches sorts it out. Ridiculous what happened. I'm not too sure if he's referring to like a TMO or a VAR system or something like that. But I suppose the problem with something like that coming in. It's very commercialized, it's very professionalized. Like I just don't know. Like it's a bit like Hawkeye, where you see Hawkeye in Crow Park, but not used in other stadiums. Do you know that way? Like I mean, if you bring it in Crow Park, it's just going to cause divide, in my opinion. That's what I think. Like.
But yeah, so you have or even like Hawkeye the last day, we were waiting for it, and then it comes up data not
Yeah, yeah,
available. Like
yeah.
it
That's
was
even when
so
that's even when it works. Like, yeah,
yeah. So it was so strange to see. But even when like soccer brought this in, like and you look at VAR, and sometimes there's an offside decision, and it could take 2 to 3 minutes. In GAA, the game moves so fast that like keepers are taking quick puck outs, quick sidelines, quick freeze, quick everything. If you want to bring in that's going to there's instances nearly every 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. It's going to slow the game down. So as much as we don't want to see like dirty play or bad swings or protecting the players, I just can't see how a video ref slowing down the game any more than it is. I just think it would ruin a game, to be honest.
yeah. And in terms of the game itself, I mean, it's an intriguing one in some respects, because what I was thinking as well. Like you seen in the football at the weekend, where the provincial losers obviously all lost in the qualifiers. Like it can be such a mentally draining experience, I'd imagine, when you lose a provincial final. Like even looking at Donegal having gone through extra time, and then against Armagh, they just didn't quite have the same willpower to go through. So could that be maybe a bit of a worry for Clare? Like they're going in against the Wexford side that, let's not forget, actually beat Kilkenny on the run into this game. So like they're coming in with a huge amount of momentum as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they like everyone kind of thought that they weren't going to turn over Wexford or Kilkenny, and that their season was gone. So that was a huge win for like Darren Egan was getting a lot of questions at that time. So their team stood up and they got 121, and then like the last day they got 330 against Kerry. That Kerry had it was kind of unfair as well on the Antrim and Kerry lads that they had a final. I don't know, did they go out and celebrate or not? And then they would turn around to 6 days to get ready for. What's the point having these matches if you're not going to give Antrim and Kerry a right go at these All Ireland teams? So I thought that was a bit unfair, but yeah, they got Wexford got 330. It's they've got a lot of big players. Like Lee Chin is back. He didn't really start many of the league, but he's been starting all these games now. He's a real influential player for the Wexford side. And when you talk about Clare there, like I know that they might have lost the Munster final, but it was the way that they lost it was probably a real positive. They brought them to extra time.
Yeah.
It wasn't a great day. Just looking, I wasn't there, but like the TV, they said it was a bit. There was rain there and everything, and like they still got 29 points. And they had a good few wides as well. So like. And the game before that, when I was talking to you last, I was like, I think they're going to play a full strength team against Waterford. They didn't. They put on 5 or 6 subs, and they absolutely blew Waterford out of the water. They got 331. So that just shows the talent that's in Clare. So that means that their panel are pushing the starting 15 for places. So I know maybe they've lost the Munster final and they might be a bit depleted or heavy legs after extra time. I think they've lots of time to recover. I think Clare are a very dark horse, because I'm just looking at their team, and like it's 9 years ago since they won the All Ireland, and they've still got a lot of them players like Shane O'Donnell, Tony Kelly, obviously, Conor Cleary, and these lads. They've all kind of been there, done that, so they have the experience, and they seem to have a good gel this year. So this game is right in the melting pot as well, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, and from a Wexford perspective, I mean, what kind of problems do you think they could give Clare in this game? Like, I mean, as we've seen with Clare, they've looked fairly faultless in many ways this year. Obviously, Limerick got the better of them, but that was in extra time. We're talking about one of the best teams we've ever seen. So, what kind of problems do you think you could see Wexford give this Clare side?
Yeah, I think as I said, like Lee Chin is pivotal now to this kind of. If Wexford are going to win, he's got to be really sharp there. So I think like Wexford are so used to kind of the running game with Davy Fitz over the last 4 or 5 years, but they're kind of mixing it up now with Dara Egan, that they're kind of they're going a bit longer to Conor McDonald there in the square, and they're not going all the way back. Like they're leaving kind of two inside there, whether it's Mikey Dwyer or Roisin Foley is in with them. So I think the Darren Egan's tactics have been, they're kind of similar, but there's a bit of a differentiation to Davy Fitz's time. So I think they just need to make sure that it'll probably be a big score game. I think it could be like, 125 to 220 or something like that. I think it's going to be really high scoring. So they just got to make sure that they don't, the wides tally isn't too high, and Lee Chin he'll be on the freeze and he can score from anywhere, from the fair 65 at all angles. So they just need to be really sharp on their game, and their backs, I think they're going to have to do a good man marking job. Like I know, let's say for the Limerick and Clare game, I think it was Anthony Daly or Liam Sheedy were just saying, like, there's no point man marking Tony Kelly because he can go in all different positions. So just kind of whoever picks him up, just take him. And I probably would be of the same thinking process as well, because like the Wexford backs, if he's in on Liam Ryan, Liam Ryan will give him enough, but if he's in the full back line, you've Matthew O'Hanlon who'll be out in the half back line, or Simon Donoghue. You could have Damien Reck that might pick him up around them areas as well. So I think the backs just need to be really, really tight, really dogged, and just don't give them Clare lads a quick start or anything like that. You don't want the game to be over after 15 minutes if Clare get a 10-3 start or something like that. So they have to be really sharp from the off, and should be a good game.
Yeah, who are you backing then to come out on top?
I probably will go Clare. Just like seeing their performance against Limerick, it's very hard. Even though they lost, and Wexford are they got 330 the last day, which is phenomenal scoring. They'll be in very confident, but I just think Clare is I think they're, as I said, they've got a lot of lads that have been there, done it before. I think Peter Duggan at the edge of the square has added a different dimension to Clare's attack. You've got Shane O'Donnell, who's kind of out the wing forward. We haven't seen him there much, but he's really getting on a lot of balls, scoring points. We kind of know him from scoring goals. And then like Ryan Taylor is having a great season there, kind of mixing in, and Colin Malone from midfield and the half forward line there. And then they've got younger lads like Shane Meehan, Mark Rogers is coming back from a cruciate injury, and Robert Mounsey as well. So I think that the Clare's panel was tested against Waterford. They got 331. Their kind of mostly full team was there against Limerick last day, and they were just fell up short. So I think they're going to have a real say in this championship, and I'll go for Clare by about 2 or 3 points.
Yeah, I'd have to back Clare as well. I think they're the side that's coming in with a huge amount of momentum. Like I think you'd have to say at this moment in time they are the second best team in the country. There is that part of me though as well that's a little worried for them in some respects though, just because I think when we've seen hurling in the past year or so, anytime there's been a side that's sort of been the second best team in the country, they've flattered to deceive, as time has gone on, and we've seen that with Waterford. But look, I think when you look at the quality all across the pitch, I think you'd very much have to back them. Very much appreciate you jumping on, Paul. Make sure to check out the What's the Score app up on the App Store as well for people when they get a chance to keep an eye on all the weekend's action from the weekend. So cheers, Paul, for coming on. Much appreciated.
Yeah, thanks very much, Aaron.